As we know, Jesus loved to tell stories. One day, a farmer went out into his field. A man had 2 sons. Lots of stories. But today, Jesus isn't telling us a story. Today, Jesus is the story. The greatest story ever told. But what kind of a story is it? Well, that depends on who is hearing the story. There is an inscription placed on the top of the cross. It was written in Hebrew and Latin and Greek. And this indicated the presence of distinct groups who witnessed this story. So what kind of a story was it for them? Well, for those who read Hebrew, the Jewish people, the Jewish authorities, the story was a riddle, a puzzle. They knew Jesus. They heard his message. They had seen his miracles. Many thought that Jesus of Nazareth might be the Messiah. But now it was clear that he was not the one coming in power to restore Israel. It must have been distressing for many to see this popular Jewish leader reduced to apparent powerlessness at the hands of the Romans. And for those who read Latin, that is the Romans, the soldiers, this story had to be a comedy. They knew about power, the Romans, about how the powerful behaved. And here was a helpless man dressed in mock regal robes, wearing a crown of thorns. Well, the whole idea must have struck them who read Latin as being terribly ironic, a farce. And so the readers of Latin laughed at him and cruelly mistreated him. Now, for those who read Greek, well, the story was a tragedy. The Greeks knew tragedy. Their greatest writers have left us classical tragedies, stories of Achilles and Hector and Oedipus. In a tragedy, a character has a flaw, such as pride or envy, that leads ultimately to their destruction. That must be how the Greeks interpreted this story. A Jewish man with the flaw of claiming to be a god, which caused his destruction. But the important question today is, what kind of a story is this for us? How do we understand this story? Well, we do not hear this story today in Hebrew or Latin or Greek, no. Instead, we hear it through the language of faith. And the more the language of faith is perfected in us, the better we are able to grasp the meaning of the story. The story. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have life everlasting. This is the story. The story is not a riddle, not a comedy, not a tragedy. This story is a love story, the greatest story of all time. A love story with Jesus as the main character. And rather than being powerless in the hands of the Romans, he's the one in control. He's the one who goes forward to meet his captors. He confounds the powerful Pilate with his answers. Death does not take Jesus. On the contrary, he surrenders his life with the words, "It is finished." And like a true lover, he gives unconditionally his all. But here's why it is the greatest love story ever. It's because it's not historically limited. It's not over. It's not in the past. It continues in us. Christ now lives in us and loves in us. We're all called to be Christ-like lovers of those whom we meet. We're called to live and make present in our community the lifestyle of Jesus himself. His love, his compassion, his mercy, his forgiveness, his sense of equality, his justice. We're called to reject violence and work and pray for peace. We're called to strive for unity among all Christians and all people of good faith and goodwill everywhere. We're called to share with Jesus his cross, his hardships, for the sake of our world. Christ's passion, the greatest love story ever told. It continues through time because of his unconditional love through us. Now we are the actors in this love story. Now this is something to ponder upon as we meditate on the cross on this day. Do we truly understand the great love that Jesus has for us? Do we understand that he is calling us to love those whom he loves? Do we understand our role in this story? Good Friday is a somber day within the Triduum. But at the same time, it's a day shot through with hope. Because we know how this story ends. It ends in glory, in resurrection itself. It has an ending that's very appropriate to the greatest love story of all time.